Hey guys, I'm Michael Loyd, pro pickleball player and coach, and I've absolutely lost points on illegal serves before. I've been competing professionally since 2023. I'm a top-ranked men's singles player, and I've won over 135 matches on the pro tour. And if your serve is inconsistent, illegal, or just straight up attackable, you're basically spotting your opponent free points before the rally even starts. The serve is the only shot in pickleball you control completely, and most rec players rush it, muscle it, or guess their way through it. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to serve in pickleball, step by step, the rules, the technique, the most common mistakes, and how pros use the serve to set up easy points instead of giving them away. Let's clear something up right away. You don't need a power serve to win in pickleball, but you absolutely need a reliable one. Here's why the serve matters. It's the only shot where no one is rushing you. It dictates how easy or how hard the return is. It determines whether you'll be able to advance towards the kitchen or start out instantly on defense. At higher levels, players don't ace each other very often, but they almost never miss serves. If your serve is shaky, every point starts uphill, fix this one shot and your entire game gets easier. Step 1, the serve rules explained without the headache. Let's make sure you're legal before we make you dangerous. Rule number 1, underhand motion. Your paddle must move upward at contact. Think smooth, low to high motion, not a slap, not a chop, and not a tennis serve in disguise. This is required in order for the serve to be legal. You can't start high to low or anywhere kind of up like a tennis serve. Instead, it's got to be more familiar with like a bowling motion, okay? I'm thinking a nice, long, smooth, low to high motion. Here's what that'll look like. Okay, and that's a legal service motion. Be thinking about this as an underhand, not an overhand motion on the serve. Rule number 2, contact below the navel. At contact, the ball, your wrist, and the highest part of your paddle must all be below your belly button. It all has to be below that belly button when I'm hitting the ball, okay? Here's what that'll look like. And everything, if you drew an imaginary line right there at my belly button, all of that would be underneath that line and would be nice and legal on that serve. Faults get called when any of these elements are too high, making the serve illegal. Rule number 3, foot position. At least one foot must be behind the baseline and not touching it. It also has to touch the ground when the ball is contacted. There's 2 different ways to have a foot fault during the serve. The first is going to be if I have my foot on the line or in the court as I'm serving, all right? No part of me can be touching the court while I'm hitting my serve. The next infraction would be if I have no feet touching the ground at the point of contact. So that's gonna look like if somebody is jumping in the middle of their serve and they don't have a foot down at the point of contact, that's gonna be a foot fault, all right? It's important to remember this is at the point of contact, not after. So I am allowed to hit and then jump afterwards after I've made contact, and that would be a legal serve. If you want to look at somebody that kind of flirts with this rule a little bit, it would be Bar. He's got a great serve. His serve is legal. He's making sure that he's hitting the serve while his foot is still on the ground, and then right afterwards, his foot kind of elevates. He's got a little bit of oomph from the legs that's helping him generate some extra power. But all of that is legal because at the point of contact, his toe is still touching the ground. It'll look a little bit more like this. Again, the foot was touching as I was making contact, all perfectly legal. Inside the imaginary extension of the court, you can step forward when hitting your serve, but your foot may not touch the ground inside the court until just after contact. To clarify, a rule I get asked about a lot of times is people kind of stepping into the court as they're making contact. Again, that's perfectly legal as long as I'm not touching the court itself at the point of contact. So if I'm serving and then it comes down after I've hit the ball, all perfectly good. Here's a bonus tip. If you're having trouble hitting the ball out of the air, you can use a drop serve. You are allowed to use a drop serve, and where I'm allowed to drop the ball as high as I can, I just can't physically toss it up. Once this ball bounces, it could bounce 1, 2, 3 times if I wanted to, and I'm allowed to swing with any motion. I don't have to worry about the navel or a low to high or anything like that, right? That takes all of it out of effect as long as I've let it bounce and then I hit it. Obviously, you don't really want to let the ball bounce, 2, 3 times because you want to make contact at the highest point possible. So I'd recommend just dropping it at about head height, letting it go down, and then swinging on that first bounce. I see a lot of players struggling with contact point on serve, so I think the drop serve is a great little cheat code for that. Makes things a little bit easier. You're timing it up more similar to some other shots in the rest of pickleball. So let it bounce, then you're good to go. Try that one out. If you're enjoying this video and have ever wondered what your true pickleball rating is, I have an amazing new tool you're going to love. It's the completely free pickleball ratings quiz, now available on pickleballhub.com. It's a quiz that has been reviewed by the pros and uses USAP standards to give you your most accurate rating online. The quiz will not only give you a detailed breakdown of your ratings, but the next steps you should take to get to the next level in your game. You can find the quiz on pickleballhub.com by clicking the link in the description. Step 2, serve stance and setup. Most serve problems start before the swing. My recommended stance is a closed stance. We'll have our feet staggered with our non-dominant foot forward. Our shoulders are gonna be slightly sideways, weight on your back foot. You're not squared to the net, but instead you're gonna be coiled. That's gonna allow me to coil and get some extra power on the serve. The last thing I want to think about here on my stance is having the weights in the back of my foot to start. So on this right foot, and then I will transfer it to the front leg as I'm hitting. Okay, this is another helpful tool for me generating power. All right, if I put it all together, this is what that's going to look like. Weight back, lean in, and I coil, right? I can only coil if I'm turned sideways like that, right? It's really tough to coil if I'm fully open, if my stance is just pointed with my hips straight at the net, all right? Put that all together, it's gonna help you unlock some free power. Let's do a grip check. For most people, we should be using a continental grip. It'll be like you're shaking hands with the paddle. Make sure that you're not too tight. This is gonna result in no feel, but if you're too loose, you're not gonna have enough control. If we're right in the middle with a relaxed grip, this is gonna be the best to make sure we're getting some free power. It's also a little bit harder to hit the backhand on the other side, but if you're using that grip, I want you to stay with it, okay? So that's the main thing. Whatever you're already using, stay with it. If you don't know what to use at all, use that continental grip. It'll be great for all shots. In terms of the ball position, I wanna hold the ball out in front of me and toss it or drop it right near the front foot. Okay, so if I let that thing drop, it'll end up maybe a couple inches in front of it. You wanna make sure that the toss is out in front so that you can contact the ball inside the court and out in front of your body. You're not allowed to impart any additional spin to the ball during the toss, so no flicking the ball or anything like that. It's just gotta be a nice, natural motion. I wanna be holding this kind of nice and out in front of me. I'm kind of aiming at that near side post so that everything is out in front of my body, right? I don't want it to be in here. That's gonna abbreviate my swing. It's gonna make it to where I get nice and jammed. Instead, I wanna make sure that I'm here so I can have that nice flow into the serve. Here's what that'll look like. Relaxed ball out in front. That's a legal toss on a legal serve. Extra tip here is that the ball is always gonna go where you tell it to with your paddle face, right? So if I'm setting up and I've already got it turned in the wrong position, that's gonna make it really difficult for me to get it back into the court. I wanna make sure that I've got it in a nice neutral spot to where I can then point it to where I'm aiming. Here's what that'll look like. Paddle pointed straight down the middle. It's gonna go straight down the middle. Just remember, the ball goes where your paddle face tells it to. If you're struggling with missing to the left or to the right, straighten that paddle face and make sure it's aiming where you want the ball to go. Step 3, the pro serve motion. Simple on purpose. Here's the biggest myth in pickleball, that you need some huge, gigantic serve. Instead, we wanna start with a reliable one. Here's some key things that I'm looking for in a nice service motion. I wanna make sure that I have a smooth backswing. I have a nice toss of the ball. I'm swinging low to high with my contact point out in front, and I'm finishing towards the target. All right, now we're gonna look at the pro motion itself. It's simple for a reason, right? We want this to be nice and repeatable. Eventually, we'll worry about pace, but before any of that, like, we need to make sure that this is repeatable and consistent before we think about the power at the end of it. This is it all together, those 5 key things, nice and smooth, okay? That's something that I can do over and over again. Here's another one. Watch someone like Ben Johns. His serve isn't super flashy, but it's always deep, heavy, and uncomfortable. The power from his serve often comes from a really good weight transfer. There's a lot of shoulder rotation and a relaxed arm. Once I've mastered the repetition of that and I feel like I can hit that serve over and over again, I really want to make sure that I'm getting repeatable power, okay? If I just swing as hard as I can, that's going to be really hard for me to do over and over again. Instead, I want to be getting a lot of power from that coil that I mentioned, as well as the actual weight transfer, okay? Again, we're loading in the back of our leg and then pushing into the court, okay? That's where all the power is coming from. This is what that looks like. Same serve, just amped up a little bit with that weight transfer and coil, and that's where I'm gonna get the power from, okay? The arm motion, everything else, the swing path, all stayed the same. I didn't do anything different there. I just used my body to get that extra power. One more. Okay? Everything, again, coming from my body, not from the arm. Pro tip, make sure you have a pre-service routine to help build good habits and get yourself in the zone. Most players bounce the ball or do something like that. I personally make sure that I bounce it 4 times and have a nice deep breath before I go to serve. Step 4, where to aim your serve. Serving in is good, serving smart is better. The number one goal here is always going to be depth. We want to aim for the ball to land within 2 to 3 feet of the baseline. Depth is so good for a number of reasons. First off, a lot of times you'll be able to push your opponent back. Their first step won't be into the return. It'll actually be back, kind of retreating outside of the court. This is great because it makes the return a little bit tougher. It also kind of feeds into my next point here, is that it makes it harder for them to transition up, right? If you can pin them back on a deep serve, it'll make it a little bit more difficult for them to get all the way up to the kitchen line. Last thing here is that the deeper you can hit your serve, oftentimes that'll result in a weaker return from your opponent, whether that be a little bit shorter or a little bit slower. All of those things are going to set you up for an easier third. Okay. She there is able to really push her back. She was right up on the baseline, and I forced her to take a couple of steps back instead of stepping into the return. All these are great situations for me. I'm going to be at the offensive from the very jump. Deep serves are going to help push our opponents back, delay their progress towards the kitchen, and often create weaker returns to help us on our thirds. Short serves give your opponent an instant advantage. On the flip side of that, if I'm giving a shorter serve, I'm really giving my opponent the advantage right away, okay? I'm giving them an easier opportunity at the return. I'm also basically inviting them all the way up to the kitchen line. Here's what that'll look like. Again, she's all the way up at the kitchen line by the time I'm hitting my third, all because I hit a nice, soft, short serve for her, easy for her to get in and off of. Here's some high percentage tactics. You should always skew towards hitting to your opponent's weaker side. Often this will be the backhand. We also want to try serving out wide, especially if our opponents are trying to stack. It's a great idea to toss in a lob serve or a short serve occasionally to throw off the rhythm. If I see that they have a weaker wing, typically this is going to be the backhand wing, I'm going to want to pick on that wing consistently, okay? So here I'll aim for her backhand wing. We'll see if I can get a shorter reply off of that. Okay, nice and short and high, something that I can drive with. Again, we're not aiming to serve to win the point outright. If I get a free error out of that, that's great. But a lot of times I'm looking to set up that next shot. Serving out wide is another great serve tactic. A lot of times this will open up the court for me. And it's even better if they're trying to unwind the stack. So if I serve out wide to her on the forehand and she tries to get all the way over to the left side, a lot of times if she's hitting a bad return, I can take advantage of that. Again, I'm looking to pin her nice and wide with the serve. She hits a short reply. I can take advantage on that unwind. I can also do some other things to throw off her rhythm. I can throw up a lob serve, or I can even mess with the depth. If I've been consistently serving deep, maybe I can throw in a short serve as well to throw her off. Okay, we'll start with that lob serve, see what that looks like. A lot of times when you serve nice and high, you're not giving them a lot of pace to work with. They're having to generate all the pace themselves. And as you saw on that return, she had to take a step back because it was so deep and so high that it wasn't allowing her to step into the return. Next, we'll take a look at that short return, right? If I've been consistently serving deep, she's all the way pinned back there, that's gonna throw her rhythm off. Again, I wanna set this up with tons of deep, consistent serves so that I see her change her return position from maybe something like this to her stepping all the way back. That's a good cue and a good time for me to maybe mix in that short serve to throw her off. The other thing I can do to mess with my opponent's rhythm is use various spins, right? If you're somebody that's consistently serving like a pretty flat, hard ball, I'd encourage you to mess with some different shape. You can always start with that top spin serve where I'm getting that thing to go up and down quickly. That's gonna be a great variation for me as the server. The other spin serve that I can use that I don't see enough people utilizing is that slice serve, okay? This will be more of that like kind of high to low position. Again, I still have to eventually finish high for this to be a legal serve. But I'm gonna start with my paddle head a little bit higher and I'm kind of cupping underneath the ball, getting a little bit of side spin, that slice to throw my opponent off. As you get more comfortable with the slice serve, you can also add some pace to it, really get it to start bending and have some fun with it. Last thing I want to talk about with how to aim or where to aim on your serve is really just a mindset shift. I see a lot of people getting up here and they're just doing the same serve over and over again, okay? Instead, I want to think about serving more similar to pitching in baseball, right? A good pitcher has multiple pitches, just like a good server has multiple serves, okay? Make sure to get out there, hit some baskets, try a bunch of different serves, try and find like 2 or 3 that you really like, and take those out to the court. You also want to try to throw in some different spins, some slice, some heavy top spins to throw them off as well. Remember, you're not trying to win the point on the serve, you're trying to set up an easier third. Step number 5, spin serves. What's legal and what works? Let's clear up some confusion. The old Zane Navratil chainsaw serve, completely illegal, but any normal spin is totally legal for you to use. That was where you would put some spin on the toss before the ball actually was hit with your paddle. That is no longer legal. I'll show you what that kind of used to look like. So somebody could spin it off of their paddle, add some extra spin that way. We're not allowed to do that anymore. As I mentioned earlier with the toss, you're not allowed to add additional spin to the ball before actually striking it with your paddle, okay? You can, however, add spin with the motion itself. So if you wanna get some extra top spin, you'll try to think about going a little bit more low to high on your motion. That's gonna help that ball dip aggressively into the court. It gives it a little bit of a different trajectory and a more aggressive path to your opponents. If you want to add some slice, it's a little bit trickier. It's harder to read where it's going and stuff like that. You're going to come a little bit more high to low while still finishing high at the end of the motion, so it's a legal motion. And you can kind of think about wrapping around the ball a little bit. So there's times where I'll hit just straight slice, or maybe I want to come around a little bit more, have that thing bend a little bit more left to right and get some side spin on it. Here's what that'll look like. You're really coming inside the ball. I'll get that little kick at the end. So those are the types of spins that you're allowed to add legally. No more chainsaw serve. Topspin is going to be your best friend for a couple of reasons. You're going to have more margin over the net, the ball is going to drop quicker into the baseline, and it's harder to attack on return. If you keep missing your serve long, try to add more topspin before taking away pace. This helps you maintain an aggressive serve while adding a little bit more margin. Step number 6, the biggest beginner serve mistakes. If this sounds familiar, don't worry, everyone does this at first. These are some of the things that I see a lot of beginners making mistakes with. They're either rushing their serve, standing straight up, over swinging, serving too short, or aiming for winners on the serve. The first one is them just kind of coming up here, rushing the serve, really going through their motion really quickly. Instead, I want to have a nice routine when I come up to serve, okay? A lot of people like to bounce the ball, put it between their legs, whatever you want to do. For me, I like to come up, take 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll take a nice big breath, and then I'll hit my serve. Okay, I think it's just really good to have a routine throughout life. And pickleball is no different in that, right? If you've got something that you do consistently that helps you put you in a nice, consistent headspace so you can be consistent on the serve itself. The next mistake I see a lot of beginners making is not using their legs and they're just standing straight up, right? That's gonna be really hard if you're just arming the ball over and over again. You've got nothing with your body actually helping you out, okay? Instead, I wanna make sure I'm in that nice staggered position. I've got a nice little bit of knee bend so I can use my body and my weight transfer to help me hit that serve. Another mistake I see a lot of beginners making on the serve is overswinging. They come up here and they're just trying to hit the hardest serve ever and they do everything with their arm. That's gonna be really difficult. It's also gonna put you in a bad spot and lead you to a lot of injuries, right? I see a lot of people building a lot of tension up in their upper body before they serving. I see tons of shoulder injuries, like tennis elbow, like all these elbow injuries. Instead, we want to be nice and relaxed and making sure that we're using our body to help us get the ball where we want it to go. The next mistake I see beginners making is serving too short, okay? This is for a couple of reasons. I think first off is you're just not even thinking about it, right? You're not aiming, you've just been told, hey, I just need to get this thing in, and you're just starting out the point, okay? Instead, I want you to think about the serve as a tool, as a weapon to help you start off the serve in an offensive position, okay? Be thinking about the target, have a target in mind. I like to think of a nice yellow cone, a target back there where I'm aiming for, okay? The last part of this is actually just going and practicing it, right? How can you hit a deep serve if you've never practiced it, drilled it, and taken the time to go out on your own? This is a mistake I was really guilty of when I first started playing pickleball. I wanted to make the serve a weapon so badly that I was aiming for outright winners or aces, right? Instead of doing that, like, it's just really difficult, right? If I'm aiming that high over the net, or if I'm aiming super close to the sideline, maybe I'm gonna hit it 1, 2 out of 10 serves, but it's not gonna be something that I can do over and over again, okay? Instead, I wanna be thinking about big hula hoop sized targets that I can hit and still be offensive with. Fix these beginner mistakes and your serve instantly is gonna go up another level. So be honest, what's the biggest issue with your serve right now? Is it consistency, depth, or confidence? Drop it in the comments, I read every one, and if you wanna know exactly what to do after a great serve, check out the next video on your screen for a breakdown on the perfect third shot strategy.